This is Addie Pittman, and this is my growth presentation. So who am I? I'm Addie Pittman. I'm a 2017 core member. This is actually my 4th year teaching at West. I had done a master's in teaching program before, which got me into teaching. My content area is 8th grade English language arts. My hometown is Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. And I have 2 children, Charlie and TJ. So my first year was a struggle. I felt like I struggled all around. I struggled with content because it had been a long time since I focused on an English language arts class. And I focused on young adult literature. And so I struggled with not only content but classroom management. I had a fight break out in my classroom. I had some crazy moments. I struggled with like what I wanted kids to do, like just little things like where do you turn in things, and I would switch things up because I didn't know exactly what I wanted. And I think that was huge in like determining who I was going to be as a teacher. I didn't know who I was going to be as a teacher, and so that was like a pivotal moment of my first year. But I did have some really good things. Like we had our first poetry slam, and I was able to build relationships with some of my students, and I was able to start loving to read as well. So my second year was much better. I had stronger relationships with these kids. I actually had spent the summer doing my ATC program, and I was able to involve that into my lessons. In addition, I had been given a scripted curriculum. Sorry, I have a 4-month-old holding on to me. So we had a scripted curriculum, and that was actually like a blessing and a curse because as a second-year teacher, it was great because I didn't have to stress so much about what I was going to teach. However, it did take like who I am out of the classroom, and it put somebody else in my spot. So that was a stressful and an adjustment. My third year was my favorite year to date. I had a great group of kids, and we were able to really like push content and push like social justice. And so it was the year that I felt like I was like most confident in what I was doing, and I felt like what I was doing was making a difference. I had some kids that like just needed a little extra push, and then they were able to really succeed and grow. So I feel like this year was the year that I was able to really get kids to be readers and to be writers. I also was able to do some things outside the classroom. We do a Holocaust unit, and we were able to take a trip to the synagogue in Memphis, and it was just like a really cool experience. However, personally, I had some troubles. I had an ectopic pregnancy, and I had some other issues going on as well. However, like the classroom was like a really good spot for me. Then my fourth year's been like a rough year. I've struggled with instruction and parents and management. However, I did spend my summer doing an ADOL program through the Department of Education, and that program teaches you how to take objects and put them in your classroom and teach with them. It was so important for me that I was able to do that because I felt like I was able to like find myself in those lessons again. However, I was pregnant for most of the year, and then I was on maternity leave, and so it was an adjustment. I also just had like a rough group. Like my first month, I think one of my students punched out a window, and I had like 2 fights that happened. I had one fight happen in my room. It was just kids were playing and they escalated it. And then another fight happened when I was on maternity leave. And so it's just been an adjustment. I've also had I had a lot of teacher kids this year, and that comes with its own issues and its own problems. However, I really hope that the lessons from this 4th year go into my 5th year and make me a better teacher. So as I've evolved as a teacher, my classroom has also evolved. I came into a classroom that was quite ugly, and I've changed it and made it into myself. So you can see that my room used to be a big old chalkboard with some desk, and this was the front of the room, and it was something. Spring break of my first year teaching in 2017, we painted my classroom, which we painted my classroom crazy colors because that's who I am. I'm not a normal person, and I feel like my classroom has really become like a part of who I am. Eventually, my classroom will have to change because if I do stay at West, they are scheduled to get a new school here in the next couple of years. So those beautiful hardwood floors that we have that are from the 1940s are going to go away. But I'm really grateful that I was able to teach in such an old building because it does have so much future or it does have so much history with it, which I think is really important. So throughout this experience, one of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that I've been able to foster a love of books within myself and a love of young adult books. And so it's been a great experience, like learning to love young adult books and learning to like push those onto kids. And so if you ask me what I want for Christmas, if you ask me what I want for my birthday, it's going to be young adult books because I just love them so much. So one of the great things one of the great things that I feel like I really have succeeded with is fostering a love of books, and you're going to hear from Willie here shortly. Did I go over? Okay. Things I do want to grow is I want to go back to my why. I want to include my ADO in the future, and I want to make sure that I go over school rules even when I disagree with them. And so I want to go back to how I was the second and third year. And so here's some relationships. I've grown some relationships with staff and with students. I just thought I'd share that because I think that no matter what you are taught, whether it's through ATC, whether it's through a traditional program, you need to have those relationships with students and with staff members, with staff members to succeed. And like I think that that's what makes you confident and makes you love your job is those relationships. And so I've built some really strong relationships with some really great kids. I also was never afraid to be silly or be weird with my students, and I think that kids see who you are. Kids see if you're authentic. Kids see if you're fake. And I feel like I've always presented a real picture of who I am. I was able this year to grow some really good relationships with some of my students. They threw me a baby shower, and it was just so sweet, so sweet. And so moving forward, if I had to go back, I would tell myself to be kind to myself. I felt like I was kind of rough on myself, like, oh my gosh, I'm failing, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, this is wrong, nothing's right, I'm overwhelmed. And really, I just needed to take a moment and say, it's okay. You got this. You're better than you think you are. And you can also see some other things of what I would like to tell myself to do. I also feel like this year I missed out on taking photos with these kids, and that's something so trivial and so little, but my other groups I have lots of pictures with them, and this year I don't have a ton of pictures because we normally take pictures at the end of the school year where we do fun activities and things. And so I would tell myself to take lots of photos with your kids and take lots of memories, and even with my personal kids, doing that. And so this is just kind of a reminder of what my life is like outside of the classroom right now. Is I have a 4-month-old that spits up constantly and poops constantly, and I have a 4-year-old that gets up in your face and runs and screams, but it's important to remember that those moments are not going to last forever and that I need to be in the moment. So what does the future hold? West Memphis is my home. We just bought a new house, but I'm not sure that West is. I do not feel supported by my administration. I do not feel welcomed by my administration, and that's really a problem. I feel like my potential is not being brought up. I feel like I'm being held down because I'm not a certain person or a certain name, or I don't have that relationship with my administration. And so we will see where the future holds with that. However, for the next year, I am coming back to West. I am possibly going to be a mentor for an anime/manga club. I will also continue with the Junior Auxiliary of Crittenden County. So that's an organization that works for kids, and we do a lot of things like we help kids if they're having financial issues, like we help pay their bills. We raise money for kids. We do back to school bash. And so I'm going to be the AMENT chapter for the next year. And then eventually I would like to become a CASA advocate one day and possibly get a certification in ESL learning. That's always been my passion. So I'm going to let you guys hear from a few students, but I do want to say that ATC has shaped me and made me a better person and a better teacher, and I appreciate especially Kendra and Bana. They were my mentors. I also had another one, Doug, my first year, but I just really want to say I appreciate you guys and all that you've done for me.